Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Land Development Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Glick. And if this is your first time joining us, our show is dedicated to having on individuals associated with the land development industry, hearing their origin story, and then hearing about some of the projects that they have going on. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Chad Quick. Chad is the Economic Development Director at the City of Altoona. Chad, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, where we like to start on the show is going through your past, how you got into this particular industry. So, it looks like you've been involved with the city of Altoona for quite a while. And was it always your goal to get into city planning and community development?
Good question. So, when I went to college, I thought I was going to be an architect, and the calculus and the math quickly made me change my career path. But one thing I figured out was that I really like to help people. And I sat down in college, and I was actually watching a closed circuit of the Ames City Council meeting and Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. And thought that was kind of interesting, so did some research and got involved in the community and regional planning department up there at Iowa State and got a degree in that. Got a job out of college in a small area in Northeast Iowa, working for 5 counties and 85 cities. Found a job in the city of Altoona in 2001, applied, got the job, and kind of the rest is history. But the reason I kind of got involved in city planning, deep into city planning with the city of Altoona, because I just really wanted to get involved with the development side of things, the planning, the land uses, the zoning, the site plans, all of those aspects of planning.
Okay, so when you first started with the city of Altoona, what was your role at that time?
Yeah, I was a city planner, and
Okay.
the only city planner that we had on staff at the time. So, one of the really fortunate things I think that really helped my career was that I got to do everything. I got to be involved in some of the water discussions and sanitary sewer and park planning, and I got to help work with events around the community and just a lot of different things, not in even including the plan and zoning side of things.
Okay.
So I think it really helped me be a little more well-rounded and really helped me on the economic development side. And so I could just kind of slide in and answer a lot of questions that developers and brokers had about the city in general.
Okay. And I was going to ask you, as we were talking about the city planner role, how would you describe what a city planner actually does for the city?
The great thing about city planning is you get to be really the first person that sees eyes on a project. So a developer brings a project in and say, hey, I'd like to do this. You're usually that first person that gets to see that. You get to sit down with them, you get to talk to them about lots, or if it's a residential plat in particular or development, lot sizes and street accesses and if there's trails or parks in that subdivision, where those will be and how they connect to the rest of the community and how does that fit into your park plan or your comprehensive plan, where you talk about different lot sizes and things. So that's always been one of the more interesting aspects to me.
Yeah, and I would imagine being in Altoona, there's quite a bit of variety of different types of developments, different types of businesses here, compared to some of the other communities that are around the Des Moines metro. What are some of the when you think about some of the challenges that you have that you're facing here in Altoona? What are some of the things that when you go into go into planning or thinking about what the direction of the city or some of the things that you're looking to do for the community? What are some of the challenges that you feel like you face here in Altoona?
Well, one of the challenges you always face in planning is kind of melding land uses together, and how does that work? When you talk about industrial and some of the larger industrial projects we have, we've been kind of a hotbed recently for giant warehouses, and we're home to the world's largest Facebook data center, Meta data center here in Altoona. Never would have dreamed that when I started working here 20 years ago. And then all of the residential development from the single family lots all the way up to the multifamily, which has gotten popular here as we've grown in size as well.
Yeah, and I think just for those listening who may not be familiar with this area of the country or of the state, there's also an amusement park, and there's also a casino, and so there's all these different things, including those data centers, and then the general residential that you have in the community. So it's definitely a wide variety when I look at this compared to others that you have to plan around and plan with and everything here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're a town of right now probably about 22,000 people that has a racetrack casino, an amusement park, an outlet mall, a Bass Pro Shops, 5 million square feet of warehouse space, and 5 million square feet of Facebook data center. It's quite a combination.
Yeah, and I was looking at, thinking about the city of Altoona and some of the things that you have upcoming when you're thinking about the rest of this year. Are there any projects or anything that you have upcoming that might be of interest to be able to that you're able to share or talk about?
Uh, we do have some new restaurants that have decided to open up here in town. A couple of them are uh, moving into existing space. There's a new one that actually started out of a food truck.
Mm,
That's kind of the dream when a city thinks about a food truck. You dream that they'll be big enough someday and confident enough someday that they'll build a building. And Charlotte's Kitchen has decided to do that. So we're excited about that. Plus, it's moving into a part of town where we haven't seen a lot of commercial development yet. A lot of our commercial development likes to locate along the interstate, so it's nice to kind of get them down closer to the residential neighborhoods. But we've had a lot of residential development that's moved dirt this spring. We had a really mild winter, so a lot of those guys were able to get a jump on dirt and pipe. And matter of fact, I saw a street paver today. It's April, it's early April. That's
yeah.
not too common in Iowa.
Yeah, no, it's not. And when I have conversations with developers and others in the industry, a lot of times the conversation goes toward some of their challenges that they have with various municipalities. So not necessarily Altoona coming up as a specific city, but just municipalities in general. So when you think about your relationship with the developers who you're looking to have, come into the community and provide value to the community, how do you look at that relationship with those developers, and how do you try to best approach the kind of the balance between what the developer's looking for and what's best for the city as well?
Good questions. Our city council has been very development focused. They're very interested in growing our city, residentially, commercially, industrially, and that takes a partnership. Yeah, I think they understand. A lot of them are small business people. They're all involved in business. They understand that the developer has to make money, and yet at the end of the day, these are Altoona residents that they have to make happy as well. So it's trying to find that middle ground. We like to try to find a way to yes, to try to figure out a way that we can work through some of these things. One of the things that we've looked at in our comp plan is trying to um, create different lot size requirements within a subdivision, a larger subdivision in particular, a development. So it may have some of the smaller lots, but it's also offset with some of the larger lots. So hopefully there's a win-win there for everyone.
Yeah, is that mainly to be able to provide some variety in it versus you see some developments that are very stamped out and it's just kind of the same lot size throughout, and having the larger lot sizes provides variety for the community to be able to move into a larger lot versus a quarter acre or even smaller than that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have a neighborhood where you can live out your entire life. Maybe there's a smaller home that you need to move into just to get started. Move up a little bit when you've got some kids and get a little older. Then maybe you can move into a townhome or a condo as you're an empty nester. So we're getting to the point where we're trying to provide more of those opportunities within a neighborhood.
Yeah. Um, so you've been in your role, so I guess you've been a city planner,
Correct.
and then you now have the role of the economic development director, but you're still a city planner. Is that right? Is that how that works? Or
No, I'm just just the economic development director now.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So I guess over the years, starting back in 2001, I think you said, and working through where we're at today, I mean, you've obviously been involved in a lot of different projects that have happened around the community here and everything. Are there any that stand out in your mind as maybe one that is just most prominent in your mind about, man, I really remember that project because maybe it was you had a challenge and you overcame a challenge, or it was just something that really provided a lot of value to the community. Anything that stands out to you that you can think of?
We've got some great residential neighborhoods. It was really probably the Venberry subdivision, a neighborhood that put Altoona on the map. Hubble came in and created a large, I think there's 500 some houses in that subdivision, which was really big for Altoona in the early 90s. That was before my time. It didn't finish until, 10 years ago or so. And it takes a while to build something like that out. But it was really a high scale development that has a series of trails that run through it that connect to parks. It's a really nice development. Then there's some on the east side of town as well. The Falcon Ridge development is a really nice one that has a really large, nice neighborhood kind of detention pond that gets used a lot for fishing and just beautification in that area. Those are some of the really nice residential subdivisions that kind of started out when I started here.
Yeah. How do you, I guess, we talked about a little bit, we are talking about the variety of different developments and the makeup of Altoona is just, it's unique. And how do you balance kind of the needs of the commercial, industrial, those businesses with the needs of the residential community? Like how do you balance all of that? Because there's growth in both, in both areas.
Yeah, the commercial's the hard one. The industrial kind of comes at you. You can plan for it. You set up industrial parks and you try to work with businesses as they're trying to find spots. And then you have things like those large warehouses that just kind of come at you and you're kind of finding space for them. So we have a really nice part of town where we've been able to do that that keeps it away from the residential neighborhoods. So they don't really have to interact as much. The commercial's harder, and we're in a unique position, and it's a very fortunate position with Prairie Meadows, Adventureland Amusement Parks, Bass Pro, and the outlets of Des Moines. There's a lot of regional traffic that comes to those things. There's 4 million visitors a year that come to Altoona for those things. But most of our commercial development then tends to congregate around those uses, especially from the restaurants and the fast food and even some of the retail, the Target and Lowe's, Menards, things like that. But we've had some good success with some strip retail in the closer to the residential neighborhoods, as well as the grocery stores that have located here. We've got some pockets set up for some commercial corners as we grow out our residential areas. So I think we're pretty well set up in the future. Plus, our infrastructure, I think, is in really good shape. We've got sanitary sewer strategically placed. We're in a good spot from a water standpoint as well. So I think we're in good shape for the future as well.
Nice. And I was wondering as I was driving over here, I was kind of thinking about, I know you're not exactly on 3580, but the fact that 80, the 85 or 8035 is so close to Altoona, does that play much of a role in like, I guess the amount of people that come here? Or is it maybe that, that Prairie Meadows is so close and maybe you get a lot of people, a lot of traffic will kind of come over to Altoona from 3580. I mean, obviously 80 goes through here, but 35, goes down a little bit down the interstate. But what does that traffic do for the community?
Yeah, it's big, especially it certainly is does make it easy to get to from a commercial standpoint, entertainment standpoint. All those folks are able to find us without having to really find us, really search for us, I guess. The one thing it has done is it's really blossomed from that distribution side, the warehousing side. They've loved, ever since COVID, I think everything has kind of blown up. They want to be closer to a lot of that material. And the access right on Interstate 80 and within a couple miles of 35 has really kind of made central Iowa and Altoona, Ankeny, Bondurant kind of really popular spots for some of that warehouse distribution space.
Yeah, you see all those buildings over there just off the interstate, and I mean, location makes sense
Yep.
just based off that ease of access and everything. Something else I wanted to maybe walk through or get your thoughts on here is, going through the approval process. So you had mentioned as a city planner, you'd kind of be the first to see some of the plans that a developer might come with. Um, for people listening in who may not be familiar with that project, maybe they're going through their first project or they're thinking about doing a development project. I'm just curious if you can kind of walk through a high level of what's kind of that sequence of events that someone would go through when they're thinking about doing a development project from the preliminary approval and kind of going all the way through. Is that something that you could kind of walk through
Yeah.
some of those high level steps of what
Yeah.
that looks like?
So, ideally, the first thing you're going to do is call that city planner and sit down with them and say, here's what we're thinking about. Here's the land we're looking to do it on, assuming they've got a land or some land picked out for it. Figure out if the zoning works. If not, is there a different zoning that we could approach with that? And maybe it's some type of a PUD that requires or allows some mixed use and mixed densities from a housing standpoint. City staff will review that. They'll sit down and work with you on that, make sure we've got utilities in place and where those road connections are going to be. Go through that preliminary plat, take it to Plan Zoning Commission, City Council, and then you're off and running. you'll work on your construction drawings kind of through that process as well. Just kind of depends on your level of comfort. Probably as a first-time developer, you're not probably going to get the construction drawings out in front of the plat. But a lot of the projects that we work with, they've already started those construction drawings as we're working through the plat process.
Okay. And then when they, I imagine throughout the development process, the city is still involved as far as going out and kind of seeing the progress and everything like that. Are there inspections or anything like that that happen?
Yep, there are. So we've got city engineering staff that will go out and do those inspections, make sure the pipes are in the right spot and, certain depths for the sanitary sewer, and they'll look at the concrete as well. If it's an improvement that the city is going to take on, yep,
Okay.
and accept.
And then from a final plat standpoint, is that does that come about once once the city or once the development is I guess it's not necessarily complete, or is it complete before you get to a final plat, or is it
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
okay,
So usually the way we'll work it is as you're getting closer to being done and ready to sell those lots, you'll bring that final plat in. You may not have all the paving done, you may not have all those final details done. Maybe your sewer hasn't been jetted or hasn't been pressure tested yet. But you'll be working that through the planning and zoning and city council process so that the day that you're approved through their process, you can start, selling lots and building houses. I mean,
okay,
ideally, that's the timing of it. I mean,
yeah,
there's another way where you can submit a bond to do that in Altoona. At least different states probably do it different ways. But in Altoona, you can submit a performance bond, so you could final plat that, get it recorded, and start selling lots before some of those
okay,
final utilities are done. I mean, it can be done, but it's more cost to the developer, and we don't typically see that around here.
gotcha. Okay, no, that's helpful. Just wanted to walk through that and what that process looks like. Something that we've added on the show, I think over the last, I don't know if it's been like 7 or 8 episodes, we started doing this lightning round at the end of the episode
Okay.
to ask some, go through 5 questions, each of them kind of a quick answer to, or your thoughts on each of them. Doesn't have to be that quick. I mean, obviously, some of these might take a little bit more to get through them, but I'm going to walk through these now and just want to get your perspective. So, first one is, what's a common mistake or something commonly overlooked by land developers when presenting real estate development ideas to the city?
Probably understanding any park requirements that the city might have. Is there a requirement to donate space? Is it a certain number of acres? Does the city need to buy some space in your development for a park? Probably make sure how your land fits into their park plan. Might be
Okay.
one of those things that might get overlooked.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Next one. Are there any lessons learned from past development projects that you think are critical for future projects?
Well, I think the earlier that we can sit down and work together, the better off we're all going to be. If we can try to save you some money to not have to re-engineer a project or redesign something because it's something we could have told you early on, um, yeah, I think those are good things. So the earlier I think that the cities and developers can sit down and talk, the better off everybody is.
Yeah, and I think that's something maybe you and I had talked about previously is that, sometimes you might have somebody who goes through this whole process with the engineering firm and comes in, and if you would have just had a conversation at the outset with the city, you could have avoided that expense of now having to go back and completely redo those plans because they don't meet whatever the needs are for the city or the requirements for the city and everything. So, yeah, that one definitely makes sense. All right, number 3. How does the city plan for future growth, and how do you see land developers play a role in that planning?
So we have a comprehensive plan, and most all cities do have a comprehensive plan that kind of shows the direction they're going. It will also talk about things on the residential side in particular of do they want to look at developments that have mixed lot sizes, or are they starting to focus more into redevelopment where infrastructure or not infrastructure where housing development needs to go up instead of out. Here in Iowa, luckily, we still have land available at a fairly reasonable cost. So we're still seeing, more of that out instead of up, but we are starting here even in Altoona to go up with some stuff, some redevelopment projects. So, sorry, what was the other part of the question?
Just how do land developers themselves play a role in some of that?
Looking at that map, I think would give them a direction for where we're going and maybe how fast we'll get there. Also, those utility maps will play a big role in where and how fast we'll be in an area. Now, most of the developers that we work with are all very astute. They understand what's going on and where those sites are at. Heck, most of the land sellers know that as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of deals made out there.
Yeah.
bargains, I should say. But
Yep, yep. Okay. Fourth one here. So, how does the city involve the community with major development projects?
there's especially if there's a rezoning or some type of a public hearing process, we have to notify the public. We do that through public hearing notices, and then people within a certain distance have to get notified as well. We've also done a much better job over the past couple of years through our communications folks of trying to get information out. And I think our social media plays a much bigger role in those things, just from everything from, garbage pickup to projects that are coming up, road work and things like that. So I think social media has played a big role in some of those things. Most comprehensive plans will have in a public input process where we'd encourage the public to get involved in those things.
Okay, nice. Do you see the public actually? I mean, do you see quite a bit of involvement from the public, or they see that stuff and they're just like, oh, interesting. They don't necessarily know how it's going to impact them, or they don't think it's going to. And so maybe you have a few people participate, or does it seem like there's a decent amount of involvement?
If it's a targeted project, if it's a road project where we're doing some reconstruction, there's usually pretty good input.
Okay.
If it's just a public hearing for a comprehensive plan amendment, no, we don't usually get much input. But we did through the last the last comprehensive plan, we did some targeted questions through social media and had really good responses through that. And it took some real effort from some citizens to fill those out. It wasn't just a yes or no or A or B answer. They had to actually type and write, and that was really productive and helpful.
Nice. So yeah, making use of the latest technology
Yep.
to be able to make it easy for people to be able to provide that feedback.
Yeah.
That's yeah, that's cool. All right, last question here in this. What's the favorite part, or what's your favorite part of your job?
Ah, boy. I really enjoy what I do now because I just get to visit with a lot of people. So all the people that I got to work with on the development side, plus commercial brokers and real estate brokers, um, it's just really been enjoyable working through projects that we get, RFIs to see if we can put a project and information back to a business to help convince them to locate here in Altoona.
Nice. All right. Well, with that said, I think before we wrap up here, just want to open the floor to you. Is there anything else you want to share, or anything that you want to bring up just related to Altoona, or anything going on for anybody out there that you want to make them aware of, or anything?
Good question. I don't know that I have really anything Altoona related other than, Altoona is a great town. The central Iowa area is a great area to develop, to build businesses, to move into. Luckily, there's a lot of good development still taking place in the area, even with kind of some uncertainty on the financial side of things. We're still seeing good growth. We're still seeing building permits come in. We're still seeing businesses locate here and around the metro. So all of those things are good things. It's a great community. It has a lot of pride and a lot of pride in our school district as well as the community itself. So it's a great place to live.
Awesome. So I guess the last thing here then is, what's the best way for people to get in contact with you or to learn more about Altoona?
Sure, we've got social media, city website. We have some marketing that we do through a website called Altoona Now. We also have a Visit Altoona website, kind of on the tourism side, where we help with entertainment and commercial aspects of development going on here in town. Those are the best ways.
Okay, and I'll throw those on the show notes page for this episode. And thanks again for joining. I appreciated the conversation and your insight into some things. It's a little unique for the show because we haven't had a conversation with anybody associated with the city, so this was really good. For those of you listening in, if you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, whether it's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening, would appreciate you clicking that button or tapping on your phone and subscribing to the show. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Ryan.